The story begins with a fool drinking water from the ground. He wakes up with a message from the system welcoming him to the apocalyptic world and informing him that the reincarnation game was about to start. He had 59 seconds to prepare. The poor guy had just woken up and had no idea what was happening, and right in front of him was a huge zombie. He falls backward, wondering what the hell was going on. The world seemed destroyed and he had no idea where he was. The system announces that he has 50 seconds to prepare. In this apocalyptic world, the only goal was to survive and the functions start to activate. Everything is happening way too fast for the poor guy, and he starts to wonder if he's in some kind of nightmare. The system warns that in 48 seconds, the zombies would come out of their static state, so he should find a place to hide. He begins to be sure that with such a terrible plot, this could only be a dream, and he punches himself in the face, saying he needs to wake up. His head snaps back, and from the pain, he realizes this felt way too real. He starts running in desperation, trying to find a place to hide with 36 seconds left. However, the entire city is filled with zombies. The system tells him that the planet of the Blue Star is similar to Earth, but 100 times bigger. With 30 seconds remaining, he needed to find a place to hide, but the problem was there were zombies everywhere, so it wasn't easy. The message said that the world was full of zombies and mutant creatures, and he needed to kill them to collect energy and become stronger. The poor guy had been walking for 15 seconds and was already exhausted, wondering what he had done to deserve such a death. At 22 seconds, he was vomiting. At 18 seconds, he declared that he was an expert at games, so he wouldn't die so easily. The system announced that he had a special warehouse and could use the collectability skill to gather materials and items from mutants. The creatures of this world were suppressed, but every 30 days, they would become stronger. There were only 10 seconds left, and he was desperately looking for a solution. That's when he saw a small zombie carrying a shield. It was his last chance, so he ran towards it, grabbed the shield, and tore it from the fool's arm. He also snatched a smoke grenade from the zombie's belt and started running, screaming as the last second finally arrived. The poor guy got headbutted and his neck hit the ground hard. The zombies began to move and the game started. The poor protagonist was already surrounded with the zombies closing in on him. He knew that if he didn't escape quickly, there would be no way out. The problem was that the one on top of him wasn't that weak. Unfortunately, he gave it a strong kick, saying he would have to abandon the shield right from the start. He grabbed the smoke grenade, threw it towards the fools, and told them to taste this. With that, the desperate guy started running again. The problem was that he didn't have a superhero physique, and there were people crying for help all around him. He saw several hanging from poles and branches. It seemed that all of them had also been teleported from Earth, and he urgently needed to find a place to hide. That's when he saw a small shop and decided to run towards it. At least inside, there wouldn't be as many creatures, right? But then a message appeared, warning him that inside that restaurant were 27 zombies, and entering there was basically asking to become food. Seeing the red window message, he already knew it wasn't a good idea. As soon as he moved away, he saw two other guys approaching. The system then warned him that the supermarket next door had only 6 zombies and clean water, which would be perfect for him. However, he saw the 2 guys entering the restaurant and wondered if they couldn't see the message that appeared for him. That's when he started wondering if he had the infamous cheat. He went into an alley, and the system informed him that there were no zombies there and a rank 1 resource box. He entered the room and immediately closed the door. The biggest enemy for this gamer was clearly his own lungs. In the box, he found a bottle of mineral water, an axe, and a physical improvement potion. The system warned him that the human physical rank could be classified into 5 levels, and this potion helped advance it. The protagonist was impressed that by using it, he would get stronger just like that. In the apocalypse, there was no choice, so he used it right away. However, his arm started to swell terribly. The boy began to scream in agony from the pain, feeling like he was about to die. What kind of curse evolution was this? The system warned him that he only had a 30% chance of surviving that. The poor guy wanted to know what kind of game doesn't warn you about things like this. He lay on the ground like trash, writhing in agony, while outside a bunch of zombies were breaking in because of his screams. He began to bite his own lip, realizing he couldn't scream anymore, or he would attract even more. He would have to endure, no matter how painful. Outside, everyone was running away from the creatures. One of them approached a guy who prepared a katana and sliced its head off. The guy was impressed. It seemed like his average physique was really useful. He was going to be the best in this area. His name was Wang Jiran, and he was the first person to have an abnormal physique in that region. Meanwhile, our boy was still suffering, grabbing water from the drawer and drinking it. Finally, the pain had passed, and he thanked his luck for surviving despite only having a 30% chance. He cried, saying that this cursed game doesn't warn about anything. Then he heard someone shouting for help and wondered who the heck was attracting a bunch of zombies to that place. On the roof was a distressed girl in a dress, almost being eaten by 2 monsters. Because of her screams, a horde of zombies was breaking down the door to the boy's place. It seemed this safe haven wasn't so peaceful anymore. He grabbed the axe and the fallen shield. The system informed him that there were 7 zombies on the 2nd floor, but they were distracted by the woman, so he had a chance. The boy was brave and knew that in an apocalyptic world, the only way to survive was to fight. It was time to test the strength of his evolved body. While the poor lady was about to be eaten, someone hit the monster on the head with an axe. Our boy told the crazy woman to scream quieter because she was attracting tons of zombies, but she just kept begging for help in desperation. While she complained, the boy was busy dealing with the zombies, distributing axe blows left and right. He quickly noticed that both his strength and reaction time were much better. When she saw the dead monsters, she started screaming again, and he begged her to stay quiet for just 1 second. That's when the zombie horde burst into the building from below. The boy told her to grab his hand because they had to run, but seeing the number of zombies, she said she wasn't too keen on the idea. Meanwhile, the boy was busy collecting a bunch of items. Then the creatures reached his floor. He realized there wasn't enough time to save the woman. On the left side, there were no zombies, but there was also no way out. On the right, there were 11 zombies, but on the third floor, he would find something safe. Obviously, without any other choice, he headed right, and as soon as he turned, he ran into 2 more. The monster wasted no time and rushed toward him, but the boy wasn't weak either and quickly landed a blow on its forehead. The horde was getting closer and he prepared himself. This level 1 zombie was way too easy for him. He kept running, determined to clear the building. One of the fools even stuck its head out of the window. He saw the elevator, but as he got closer, he realized he needed a card to call it. Just then, smoke billowed from the side and a much larger zombie appeared in front of him. The boy turned around with a dumbfounded expression, wondering if he would have to fight that thing. The system informed him that the key to the presidential area was on the 3rd floor and that the creature in front of him was carrying it. He quickly noticed both the key and the elevator card attached to the zombie's belt. That was what he needed, so there was no choice. He lunged to take down the monster. His attack hit the creature's shoulder, but it didn't seem to do much damage. Worse yet, his axe got stuck. The monster threw a punch in return, but the boy managed to block it with his shield. However, the monster followed up with a charged punch, delivering a barrage of blows that crushed the boy's shield. He couldn't hold on, and his shield flew out of his hands. At the same time, another zombie came at him. Since his axe was stuck in the monster's shoulder, he couldn't defend himself. But the boy was brutal, grabbing the zombie's head and ripping it off, asking if it really thought he was that weak. The big zombie came at him from behind, so the boy threw the head into its mouth, telling it to eat that. He grabbed a fire extinguisher nearby and hurled it at the creature's face, causing it to stagger backward. Taking advantage of the confusion, the boy passed by, retrieved his axe, and snatched the key, knowing he couldn't kill the monster. He ran toward the elevator, desperately hoping the zombies wouldn't get close. Clearly, a few were already approaching. He noticed strange green veins on his face and wondered if that medicine had some side effects. The zombie began to react, but he quickly noticed it was wearing a police uniform and had a gun at its waist. The problem was that his body felt weak now, and more zombies were jumping at him from behind. He grabbed his beaten-up shield and managed to defend himself, but unfortunately, he'd have to leave the gun for later. As he threw himself into the elevator, the creatures approached, but finally the door closed. He was exhausted. He hadn't had a moment to rest. The system informed him that now in the presidential area, he could use the card to enter a room without any zombies. However, the boy was struggling with a cursed poison spreading through his body. He said he couldn't resist much longer. He finally entered the suite, saw a refrigerator, dropped his axe, and started dragging himself toward it. When he opened it, at least there was a ton of water. He began drinking, and the strange curse seemed to disappear. It looked like water was even more valuable in this world than he thought, and having so much of it in that room, he basically had a treasure. Outside, everyone was being eaten by the creatures, while our boy was enjoying the good life. But man, this zombie plague had way too many creatures, and people outside were screaming not to let them in while our boy was belching on the couch after drinking a Coke. Another guy with blue hair was with his group, hammering away at some zombies. His name was Zheng Hao, and he was suffering while the protagonist feasted. On the roof, the katana-wielding ones killed 3 people who didn't seem to be zombies. He thanked them for gathering supplies and said they were true heroes, while our boy just burped on the sofa. Wang Jiran said it was time to head to the police station to get some weapons. Sometime later, night finally fell. The city was completely overrun. In another location, Zheng Hao was monitoring the system, wanting to save more people and establish a survivor camp there. But the people with him were just praying to survive the night. A girl under a table told them not to be afraid. Back to our boy, he decided it was time to check out his loot. With an inventory that felt like something out of Minecraft, he had collected some fabrics, production items, and weapons. He realized he had gotten a lot of stuff, but would have to discard some of it to carry more water. He had also found a car key, and the system informed him that there were important items in the parking lot. The boy noticed there was some kind of global chat and wondered how the other players were doing. Some people were talking about dying of thirst, others about searching for a hospital, and of course, some were trying to negotiate items. He saw a message from Zheng Hao, who was trying to organize a base with his friends, and he was impressed. However, he didn't want anyone to find out about his ability to see hints, so he decided to continue traveling alone. At that moment, he noticed that a lot of people seemed to be selling sausages and water. It seemed that with the system, you could also trade items, which was perfect for him, since he needed to get rid of a lot of stuff. He noticed that a guy named Wanshu was selling sausages and water in exchange for a bunch of energy cores. He thought it was a good idea, but he knew that in an apocalypse, the value of water and food would only increase, so instead of selling food, he sold weapons and got more water and food. That's when a guy named Zhao Xiu announced the map of the city campus. To get it, you had to join a private chat, and he accepted. Strangely, he saw an image of a sad and worn-out girl. The boy asked for the price, and she said she wanted water and a little food. He knew that with the map, it would be easy to figure out where the supplies were and which areas were dangerous, but he didn't want to let her know how much he valued it, so he made a low offer of half a bottle of water and some leftover food he had eaten and asked if she wanted it. His plan was to gradually raise the offer, but she accepted immediately. He confirmed the trade in the system, and the girl, emotional, said that he was truly different from others, not just helping for personal gain. The boy felt a little embarrassed and said it was always good to help people. She started drinking the water desperately, and he told her to slow down. He decided to add her as a friend so he could send her more later. He then asked if they could add each other and whether her location had as many resources as the map suggested. However, before she could respond, the chat ended. He figured she might be afraid of him because she was a girl and decided it was time to get some sleep. Another day dawned, and as always, there were zombies everywhere. Zheng Hao, no matter where he was always surrounded by girls. He was planning to go to the hospital to see if there were any resources or medicines there, while the boy decided to go down to the second floor. Armed with a shield and an axe, it was time to handle things. As soon as the elevator door opened, he dashed out in desperation, but strangely, the hallway was empty. He wondered what had happened. Even more bizarre was the human blood on the floor, and he didn't remember seeing any other players. Not to mention, it was only a drop, which meant it wasn't from a zombie, as they would have torn the person apart. This suggested that a player had been hunted by another. Worse, the killer probably took the revolver he had been after. Fortunately, he was on the third floor, and the person didn't have the key card. He started heading down the stairs, knowing he had to go to the lower floor to find that car. Meanwhile, Durham was jumping through a window, checking his stats to see if there was anyone else around. Considering the place was still somewhat empty, it must have been Durham who took the revolver. Our boy, meanwhile, was running through the parking lot, pressing the alarm to see which car was his. Soon, a big black armored vehicle beeped, but the signal also alerted some zombies. However, for these level 1 creatures, he was the biggest threat. He immediately smacked one in the face and collected some items as usual before heading to the car. Since it was a special mission vehicle, there was something more inside, a shotgun and a bunch of ammo. The boy felt rich. Now he wanted to see if there were more resources around. Besides, that assassin might be waiting for him by the elevator. Elsewhere in the hallway, it can drop to the floor. Durham was hiding, wondering what made that sound. Our boy had his weapon in hand. This had turned into PUBG. The system hacks informed him that there was an armed guy just ahead. Luckily, the boy was moving cautiously and hadn't been noticed yet. The can rolled, and Durham looked at it suspiciously. Our boy, a camper, said he wouldn't move unless the guy moved. Suddenly, someone outside started screaming for help. It seemed like the same woman from before, and somehow, she was still alive. At that moment, he heard the guy say it looked like the bastard was on the lower floor. Taking the opportunity, the boy jumped out of cover, aiming at him, but the hallway was empty. It seemed the guy had actually gone downstairs and believed him. The poor girl was tied to a tree, suffering the apocalypse, begging for forgiveness and saying she was about to die. She asked the guys to help her, but 2 weirdos from a house said they had saved her, so she just needed to do what they told her. The fat one told her to keep screaming since she hadn't attracted everything yet. His friend beside him questioned whether he could really handle all that. The fat one said he saw a guy with an axe killing 8 zombies without breaking a sweat, so they could handle it too. Meanwhile, the poor girl was surrounded by zombies and thought a hero was going to arrive, but she got bitten. At that moment, her screams attracted even more zombies, and the poor girl became the next victim in the story. The excited fat guy said it was time for them to advance and kill at least 20. He came from behind with a big axe in front of him, but the attack got stuck in the girl's hair. Now he realized it wasn't that easy to kill those creatures. The next second, the guy was running in desperation, crying for help with a legion of zombies chasing after the 2 of them. What he couldn't understand was why his attack didn't work. He gave his friend the classic push, saying there was no choice, and apologizing, saying that unfortunately, it was the apocalypse. His poor friend in agony said that when he turned into a zombie, he would eat that fat bastard. Our boy was hiding behind the grass, just camping, watching how morality had completely collapsed in this world. The worst part was that the fat guy was running in his direction, which attracted a ton of zombies and revealed his position. But then the guy tripped over a little rock and fell flat on his chin. Our boy smiled, saying he deserved it, and yet another person became a meal. Suddenly, a zombie seemed to turn around, and he quickly hid, afraid that the creature had noticed him. Not wanting to fire a shot and attract more attention, he pulled out his axe. The zombie got ready, and our boy went straight at him. 3 zombies lunged at him, but with his strengthened body, the axe sliced through them cleanly. He cleared out the creatures, and when he was done, he looked at the fat guy's body. The system tells him that he can loot the resources and even use the fat guy's ring to upgrade his own. Our boy quickly realizes that the only way to strengthen his warehouse is by killing other people, but then the system tells him to look up. He throws himself to the side, narrowly avoiding a sword strike from Jiran, who was impressed that the kid was that fast. Now our boy would have to deal with this guy. Jiran smiled, saying that he finally appeared and revealed that he had jumped from the window just to trap him. The protagonist asked how he knew he was behind the wall. Jae-ran laughed, saying that the trick was ridiculous, and that being so inexperienced, he was going to die at his hands. Our boy, looking desperate, said that they wouldn't know until they fought. Jae-ran smiled, saying that at least he was confident. In an instant, he advanced with a punch that destroyed the boy's shield. Jae-ran warned that he would now experience the strength of someone with abnormal power. Our boy got a slight kiss on the cheek and nearly died. However, he pulled out his axe and went for Jae-ran's ribs, but the guy quickly noticed and kicked him. And that's how this Dragon Ball Z fight went, with our boy getting thrown far away. Jae-ran asked what he thought of his fractured sternum, and the protagonist realized that this guy was extremely experienced in combat. But Jae-ran simply said that his game was about to end and jumped toward him. However, the boy charged ahead first and grabbed him by the waist. Jae-ran was surprised that the boy could still move. Running with Jae-ran in his grip, our protagonist asked why they couldn't live peacefully. Jae-ran elbowed him in the ribs, making him spit blood, but he kept running and asked why Jae-ran didn't just use his gun. Jae-ran replied that since the boy wanted it so badly, he granted his wish, pulling out the gun. At that moment, the boy bit Jae-ran's arm, telling him he would kill him. He threw him away, and while Jae-ran was off balance in the air, the boy started pulling out his shotgun. But Jae-ran smiled and aimed his revolver, only to find a cannon pointed at his forehead. Exhausted, our boy now had Jae-ran sweating, saying that they could negotiate. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the city, a horde of zombies was running toward a truck. It was Zhang Hao and his group of friends, and he told everyone to head back to the gymnasium. If you thought our boy would forgive Jae-ran, you're wrong. His heart was pounding, but Jae-ran was sent to the next life. The problem was that our boy could barely move his body anymore. Just then, that girl from before, Zhao Xiu, wanted to talk to him. She appeared and asked why he looked so beaten up. Exhausted, the boy was told by her to get up because there were several zombies right behind him. She said she'd send him some adrenaline and told him to use it for a bit of strength. The system notified him that in 3 seconds, he'd enter a berserker state. He immediately injected it into his thigh. However, a few seconds still remained and the zombies were slowly approaching. He grabbed Jae-ran's sword, which was lying next to him, and as soon as the timer hit 0, he stood up, slashing everyone around him. Man, that boy, he started cutting through everything. The adrenaline's effect would last 10 minutes, enough for him to make it back. But then he saw a crowd gathering because of the gunshot. Now his confidence wasn't as high anymore, and the zombies were already closing in on him. The problem was there were creatures behind him too. He headed into another corridor and found a whole bunch more, and just as the ones behind him were about to catch up, he, in all his swag, threw his pistol back over his shoulder. But when he pulled the trigger, nothing. It was empty. He dodged the zombies' attacks slowly but ended up tripping and falling like an idiot. He noticed a fallen parking sign and seemed to have an idea. He stood up, slashing through the ones in front of him, ran to the sign and ripped it from the ground. When he turned around, a whole bunch more was coming, but he was confident, shouting for them to die. Meanwhile, someone above was watching, wondering how one guy was beating 10 zombies alone. From the top of one of the buses, a guy opened a window and told everyone to check out this legend. But then something caught our boy's attention. A fat zombie appeared in front of him. The system alerted him that the path ahead led to the river, where some wires could stop this zombie army. Everyone was watching our boy, obviously curious to know who this legend was. The boy kept running until he reached the metal wall. It was his only chance to escape. He jumped over it, and at least now he was safe. He turned and said goodbye to the fools, but then his body began to collapse. The effects of the medicine had worn off, and he felt like a sack of potatoes. He tried to get up, but it wasn't easy. The system informed him that if he leveled up, he'd gain a stronger physique and that he had enough resources to do so. When he opened his inventory, he saw that it was full of food, water, and a ton of weapons. Everything he'd looted from Jae-ran. He had 105 energy cores, which he needed to level up. Of course, he immediately accepted. As soon as he leveled up, it felt like his body had reset, and he was full of energy. The system notified him that he had reached the peak of the human body rank, and that to level up again, he would need 300 cores. Our boy felt like his hand was as solid as stone, and to test it, he punched another zombie, destroying it instantly. The most amazing thing was that it didn't even leave a mark on his hand. He cried from the dust that flew into his eye, and the system informed him that he had been detected and that his ring was full. Since he had both Jae-ran's ring and the other guy's, he could evolve his own to level 2 and gain more space. Seeing that everything had worked out, he realized it was thanks to the girl who gave him the adrenaline at the crucial moment. The system warned that in 10 days, the zombies and mutants would get stronger. The people hiding were all devastated, as they didn't even have decent weapons yet. But Zhang Hao tried to stay positive, saying that as long as they kept working together, they would survive this crisis. Someone approached and said that starting tomorrow, they would attack the supermarket to gather strength. The muscle guy's name was Kai Hong Da, and the girl with the slim waist was Qian Zhenyu. Knowing the zombies would get stronger, everyone was determined to attack that place. The scene shifted to our boy's friend, who was eating desperately. He told her to slow down because no one was going to steal it from her. She happily said she was glad her medicine hadn't gone to waste. Our boy thanked her, saying that without her, he would have died. She replied that she had only done what was expected, help others. But the boy said there weren't many normal people left in this world anymore. She seemed to agree, a little sad. He then commented that she had been hiding under a table since that day and asked her to tell him where she was so he could go save her. At that moment, she seemed startled. He noticed that she was about to close the conversation and told her not to do that he just wanted to share his house with her. It was big and even had a functional bathroom. She could live there. But she just thanked him for the food and drink and said goodbye. Our boy realized that this girl didn't trust him at all. From under the table, she said it would be great to get out of that place, but people didn't know the real danger of this world. She started sweating as she looked out the window. A giant paw rose in front of her. Sometime later, we're back with the protagonist who's running around. He notices some meat potato seeds on the ground. The name says it all. It's a potato from this world that tastes like meat and contains protein. After some time, our boy is back home, but the window is broken. Everything in the fridge has been stolen and his room has been ransacked. Meanwhile, elsewhere, something breaks through a window. A creature with a giant tongue starts crawling down the wall. Our boy is aiming at the window, but relaxes when he realizes that if there were something dangerous, the system would have alerted him. But then, he hears a burp behind him. He immediately aims his weapon and yells for whoever it is to get out. But what appears is a trembling little girl. Confused, the boy wonders why there's a little girl there. He calls her Little Rat and says it looks like she was the one who stole everything. Embarrassed, she hesitates before admitting, then changes her mind, saying it wasn't true, that she didn't steal anything or break anything. But our boy tells her to stop lying with that hammer in her hand. Embarrassed, she claims it wasn't her and asks for a bottle of water. When the boy is about to call her shameless, she smashes his foot with a hammer. Startled, he gets punched in the face. As he stumbles back, she runs off, thanking him for the storage ring. Furious, our boy wonders why he didn't just shoot the girl. He heads to the door, questioning why the system didn't give him a hint this time. But just then, the girl reappears and asks if he still has that gun. He questions whether she's really trying to steal it. She closes the door, warning that a zombie is coming. He tells her she better return the ring, or she'll be the one turning into a zombie with a hole in her head. At that moment, the system warns him to watch out for the window. The giant-tongued creature bursts into the room. It's a lava walker, extremely fast, but with poor vision. The girl hits it in the head with her hammer, impressing our boy with her strength. At least she bought him some time. He takes the chance to land a blow on the creature's forehead, and it drops dead. Relieved, he realizes that these mutants aren't as hard to deal with as he thought. He turns to the girl and tells her it's time for her to get a bullet too, unless she returns the ring. But the creature starts getting up again. Both are shocked to see it still alive. He tells her to return the ring because he's out of bullets. She responds by saying he should just give her 2 bullets, and she'll handle the rest. He dodges and tells her to give it back already. He kicks the creature in the head, sending it crashing into the wardrobe. Finally, the girl hands over the ring. The boy grabs it just as the creature lunges at him again. He reloads his gun and tries to shoot, but the creature dodges and clings to the ceiling. Our boy quickly realizes this thing is smarter than a normal zombie, especially since it changes targets and goes after the girl. She tries to defend herself, but doesn't have much of a chance. The boy tosses her a katana. As soon as the creature falls, he collects the body and receives 15 energy cores. Turning to the girl, he tells her to get lost before he takes her out too. But she says he's her new boss since he's loaded with good weapons and resources. He raised his arm about to say something, but she already called him boss and warned him that he had been wounded by the creature. The crazy girl starts laughing, saying that since he's going to turn into a zombie in 2 hours, she might as well kill him now to spare him the pain. Furious, he demands to know why he should pay for her stupidity and says that before he dies, she'll pay the price. Scared, she asks what he's going to do. With a serious expression, he tells her it's obvious. He's going to make her die. She leaves, saying she'll be back soon and that when he's a zombie, she'll smash his head in with her hammer. At least he's glad she finally left. The next morning, she's wondering where her zombie boss went so she could grab all those resources. Of course, he had already left, looking for better places, using the map Paxtayu had sold him. He crosses a bridge and the system tells him that this is the perfect place since there are no zombies. He enters a large warehouse and starts looking around the room. Then he hears a strange sound behind him. Bending down to check under the table, he finds a baby Moon King wolf, a rank S creature that can be tamed by feeding it. Our boy seems excited to find this rank S creature, but the little wolf doesn't look happy after being startled. Naturally, the boy seizes the opportunity and tosses it a piece of meat. The wolf slowly approaches and starts sniffing. As soon as it begins to eat, the boy gets excited. The favorability level is still at 0, but to tame it, he needs to reach 100. What's most impressive is that the current combat ability of this creature is equivalent to an extremely strong and well-armed human. The lucky boy realizes he's a very lucky guy. Meanwhile, inside the supermarket, Zheng Hao's group is worn out. Some people are kneeling in front of them, crying in desperation. Zheng Hao tells them to give them some food. Zheng says it doesn't make sense. After all, in 2 hours, they'll turn into zombies anyway. But Zheng Hao says that since they got injured protecting them, they should at least get something good to eat before they die. Everyone falls silent but seems to agree. However, Han Des, standing nearby, thinks their leader is an idiot. Our boy was down to his last piece of meat. The dog was happy, and the favorability had reached 99. Finally, he tamed the Moon King wolf combat pet. Its name was Pang, and it ate zombies, meat, animal meat, and mutant meat. The boy then called the wolf over and told it to drink some water. While worrying about this, Phase 2 is approaching. That night, they were digging something on the beach, and Pang was making some holes. However, our boy told him he had no more seeds, so that was enough. Unfortunately, he had to spend his water bottles to water the crops since it wasn't raining. Phase 2 was about to start, and he urgently needed a way to start purifying the water. He told Pang to guard the house and not let anyone approach the island. In the chat, he noticed that all the city's water supplies seemed to have become strangely polluted. Jang Hao was still announcing that he had 15 survivors with him and was accepting anyone with abnormal strength ranks. In the city, people were starting to get used to surviving against level 1 zombies. The girl was celebrating until she got hit by an arrow. Zombies might become familiar, but there are other people out there hunting too. Poor couple, said Kai. The scared man said he ordered the girl killed, but the redhead asked if she wasn't enough, telling him to stop wasting time and to go collect the items. However, he told her to wait. Someone else had arrived. The system warned him to be careful of the third-floor window, where 2 bandits with bows and arrows were lurking. He knew these ambushers must be killing lots of people that way. The guy told the girl to wait because he had a better plan. He sent a message to someone named Lausen, telling him to come toward them because they had a good catch. Our boy knew it would take at least 20 seconds to get up to the 3rd floor, so he needed to find a way to make them come down. Then 2 people appeared in front of him, and he immediately knew they must be allies. The leader of the group told him to hand over all his valuables and he would be spared. But our boy simply told him the same. Just then, a guy emerged from the bushes behind him. At the same moment, the girl fired an arrow. But man, our boy was like a ninja, catching it before it touched his chest. The problem was, because of that, he took a hammer blow to the spine. The guys celebrated, calling everyone over and wondering how such a weak kid could be the boss. The scared man didn't want to come down, but the girl jumped down immediately. When she hit the ground, she asked how he could be the boss if he was so scared, especially since the boy was already dead. But at that moment, the scared guy shouted for everyone to be careful. Our boy got up behind the first guy and cracked him across the back, saying that now everyone was in the same place. Another one came at him from behind, but our boy stood still and split the guy in 2. Then the system warned him to watch out for a grenade. Seemed like that warning came just in time, right? The leader grabbed the redhead and told her to run because the kid was strong. All the leader's buddies died in the explosion, and our boy managed to climb up to the next floor. The redhead asked why they were running, and the leader said that with that kind of speed, the boy must be at the limit of the human body, a rank far above theirs. He looked back and saw someone following them, realizing that the boy would catch up soon. They both stopped and were startled by a giant zombie in front of them, and right behind them, our boy appeared. The leader said he knew they made a mistake by attacking the boy and offered to give him half of everything they had. But our boy said he wasn't a beggar, he wanted 80%. The scared man didn't want to accept, and the redhead said that once the giant zombies arrived, there would be no escape anyway. The protagonist told them they would be waiting for the zombies together. The system warned him that he would die instantly from a hit by the giant zombie. The twisted, hulking creature slowly approached, and the couple started to panic. The leader told the boy to drop his sword, and they would hand over the 80%. Our boy, without fear, threw his sword immediately. But that was part of the leader's plan. He was going to throw a grenade instead and steal the sword. However, the protagonist was just smiling. The giant zombie kept advancing, and the leader couldn't find the stupid grenade. That's when someone yanked the ring off his finger. He turned to ask Xiao Hu what she was doing, but the apocalyptic woman just shoved him. The poor guy had nowhere to run and took a massive punch from the giant. As his body was flung into the distance, he wondered why she did that. She said she gave him a chance to prove his love by helping hold off the zombies, and the poor guy was finally crushed. Then she pulled the pin on the grenade and blew everything up on top of the zombie. The boy was impressed by her reckless act. Of course, her friend was already dead. She saw the storage ring drop to the ground because what she had stolen was only the grenade. Just then, the giant zombie lunged at our boy. The system told him to run away from the giant and chase the girl instead. That was a better choice. He decided to come back for the ring and the sword later. Meanwhile, someone found the body of the girl who had been shot with the arrow. It was Zhang Hao's group. They knew it had been a bandit, but what they couldn't understand was why the resources hadn't been stolen. Then a guy yelled from a distance, saying that all the bandits they had seen were dead. Zhang Hao was shocked and told everyone to stay alert, believing it to be a trap. The redhead appeared around the corner, asking why that crazy guy was following her instead of going after the ring. But man, she got kissed on the forehead and dropped dead instantly. Our boy appeared, looking desperate. Zhang Hao told everyone not to move. Without hesitation, the boy went to the redhead's body and started collecting the items. Zhang Hao told his friend to grab the rings from the nearby body and hand everything over to the boy. If he still refused to let them go, Han De would lead a group to escape. Zhang Hao then assured the boy that they had no bad intentions, and the lovely Zhen Yu placed the rings on the ground, offering a lot of valuable items in this apocalypse. However, our boy isn't simple-minded and quickly reloads 12 rounds. The poor redhead realizes that her charm didn't work. Zheng Hao warns everyone to be careful. Our boy picks up the ring and says he didn't kill those people, so it belongs to them. He returns it and walks away, and Zheng Hao asks him his name. Our boy says they can call him Lei Feng. Is it just me, or did we just now find out this guy's name? Our boy returned to the giant's area, but unfortunately, didn't find the sword or the ring. Behind a wall, guess who he found? That little brat, all happy because she found something amazing. With no other choice, he returns to his base. The crops had succeeded, but they would take 120 days to grow unless he used some fertilizer. He gathered 200 fertilizers, 20 of which increased the growth speed even more. After using them, the growth time was cut in half. Now he just had to wait for the seeds to plant everything and have an endless food supply. On the redhead's body, he had found a recipe for a simple water purifier. Pang was bringing the results from the item, and it seemed to work well, though the amount of water produced was still small. He stops and tells Pang it's time to see how he fights. The scene shifts to the city at night. An arrow flies through the air, landing squarely in a zombie's head. Our boy is playing the role of the Green Archer, leaping across rooftops, while Pang in combat form is crushing everything below. Lei Feng is impressed with how much stronger Pang becomes in this form, but his current priority is leveling up himself. He collects 13 more zombie bodies and several crystals, now at 103 out of the 300 he needs to level up again. At that moment, Pang seems to notice something and leaps upward in an instant, but our boy tells him to come back because it's too dangerous. Pang was chasing one of those lava crawlers, but in this apocalypse, even mutants don't play around. They had set a trap. Pang manages to bite one of them, but another creature, a giant octopus-like mutant, falls on his back, biting everything. Pang turns around in desperation, but more mutants are closing in on him. In the air, one of them gets hit in the forehead by a slingshot. With Pang in danger, our boy can afford to miss a single shot. He fires another arrow, but it breaks upon hitting the creature. The mutant changes its target and rushes toward him. Perfect, he thinks. Now he won't have to aim. One of the creatures leaps and roars, and our boy slices it with a cleaver, gaining 15 more cores. Pang still had one mutant clinging to his back, but at that moment, Pang wagged his tail, and our boy hit another arrow, finally killing the creature. It started getting devoured, and our boy told Pang to calm down. But then they realized these things weren't dead. Worse, they were starting to get surrounded by many more. Now our dear Lei Feng had nowhere to escape, or so it seemed. In fact, he was already running desperately, with Pang now in his puppy form. The problem was that their path kept getting blocked. He began to wonder why there were so many creatures in this strange area. The scene shifts back to Zheng Hao's group. They're still inside the supermarket, gathering all the resources they can when some creatures appear in front of them. Once again, a whole army of them was coming. The guys shut the door and warn that there are 4 strange creatures, which they've named creepers. Zheng Yu asks why there are so many of them. The creatures start throwing themselves at the glass. Zheng Hao orders them to build a barricade before everything shatters. Outside the city, our boy is cutting down creatures and collecting crystals. However, people notice that he's about to be surrounded. The strange thing is that he's killing the creatures on his own, and Zheng Yu quickly remembers who this guy is. 2 more monsters leap onto Lei Feng's back, and she shouts for him to look behind. Our boy turns around with a cleaver, finishing one off, then draws his shotgun and blasts the other. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the city, that bratty girl was suffering from the heat. She thought it was strange because it felt like she had a fever. The system congratulated her for becoming awakened and informed her that she would receive a talent from the system. Zheng Hao then commented that the situation was getting too weird and they should all head back to the gymnasium. While our boy was running from 6 creatures down the street, they suddenly stopped. A message appeared, saying that some survivors had illegally awakened their powers and therefore Phase 2 would begin in 59 seconds. The system told him to kill these creatures before they evolved, as they would become dangerous. With 39 seconds left until Phase 2 began, our boy had killed all but 25. Lei Feng tried to take another path but was blocked by a giant zombie and a bunch of creepers. He obviously asked the system to show him another route, and it suggested he go down a nearby alley, where 300 meters ahead, he'd find a truck with gasoline. He started running, but there were only 15 seconds left. Seeing the number of zombies, he knew that Phase 2 was going to be much more difficult. The creatures were all eyeing him and only 8 seconds remained. He finally reached the truck, but a monster was holding the door. There wasn't enough time to kill the creature with the army of zombies closing in. He decided to slide under the truck, but he hit his foot on a rock. While he was wincing in pain, Phase 2 had started. At that moment, the creature on top of the truck jumped at him, crashing into the ground and causing an explosion. The creature had not only grown larger, but also much faster. It leaped toward him again, and he barely managed to dodge the attack. Realizing that if he dragged out this fight, he would be killed, the creature jumped so high that it got confused, but it quickly came back down to attack him again. Without his katana, it was impossible to kill the creature, so he needed to find a place to hide first. He managed to open the truck door just as the creature lunged at him, and inside, there was a bazooka. The creature kept coming, but our boy grabbed the bazooka and told it to try a bite of this. Needless to say, the creature was disintegrated. Meanwhile, On top of a building, Zheng Hao's group was being surrounded. He told everyone to hold on and that they would find a way out. Yu was landing perfect shots with her arrows, while the rest of the team was already cheering. Suddenly, everyone began to hear the sound of footsteps. In the distance, a gigantic zombie was approaching. The girl with pink hair started crying, saying that today everyone was going to die. Zheng Hao told her to keep fighting, assuring her that they would soon find the weakness of these monsters. But Hong De said the only way was for someone to lure the zombie away. He turned and said he knew how to escape, but he would need a few brothers who were willing to sacrifice themselves. Zheng Hao was shocked, turned around and told him to shut up. But Hong De said that in the world of the fittest, some people needed to be sacrificed for the rest to survive. Zheng Hao approached him when someone interrupted them. It was Yu, telling them to stop fighting because the giant was heading toward them. Zheng Hao approached him when someone interrupted them. It was Yu, telling them to stop fighting because the giant was heading toward them. Zheng Hao kept running and killing zombies, telling everyone to follow him. Suddenly, a sewer exploded and a creeper emerged. The problem was that it was one of the evolved ones. Hong De said he had told them it would have been better if they had split up so at least some of them could survive. At that moment, a truck came barreling in. It was our boy, having the time of his life, mowing down zombies and collecting cores. He already had 583 of the 300 he needed. He advanced and became a level 1 awakened, activating the talent system. For level 2, he would need 1,200 cores and already had 288. He kept speeding up the truck and the group raised their hands, thinking they were finally saved. But then our boy pulled out a bazooka. Without hesitation, he fired it. Everyone was shocked that he had something like that in the apocalypse. Zheng Yu even said, "He's the man." Zheng Hao immediately gave the order for everyone to follow the truck since it was clearing the way. Meanwhile, in another alley, the talent that the girl awakened allowed her to blend in with the zombies, so she would stay among them unnoticed. That's when a little puppy appeared, and she found it cute. But this was that same sneaky thief girl who had stolen from our boy. Sometime later, our boy drove to the right and Zheng Hao's group was safe. Hong De asked if they shouldn't follow the guy to find out where he lived, but Zheng Hao said that would be crazy. This guy had already spared him once, and offending him wasn't a good idea. Meanwhile, Zheng Yu was already missing our boy, commenting on how strong he had become recently. A while later, our boy returned home and Pang was there. Li Feng got all excited seeing that his wounds had healed. However, someone was wondering who had arrived at her house. Apparently, Pang could communicate with our boy and passed on the information about what happened there. Just then, the system alerted him to something above. The girl arrived, saying that her zombie friend had finally returned. But our boy easily dodged and realized again how annoying she was. He hit her on the head and asked if that wasn't his sword she was holding. She then asked why he hadn't stayed in the room so she could kill him and take the ring. He commented that it seemed like she was the one about to turn into a zombie. She smiled wickedly, saying that was actually the ability she had awakened. At that moment, our boy almost slashed her, and she asked what he was doing. He tried again and she dodged. Then she stretched out her arm and activated a trap ability, a gas that turns someone with an abnormal physique into a zombie within 30 seconds. Our boy pretended to be affected and asked her to stop this cruel ability. What impressed him was how quickly she had evolved, but in any case, he couldn't keep her around anymore. He thanked her for taking care of Pang and told her she could leave now, assuming she had stolen everything from the kitchen. She said it was actually just payment for following her boss. He shouted through a loudspeaker, telling her that if she was paid, she could disappear now. She asked to stay, saying she had a bunch of ability books and 30 ring fragments, not to mention that she could pay for the food. But our boy said there was no negotiation because he didn't want to have to sleep with one eye open. She then mentioned that she knew of an armory with lots of ammunition. That changed his mind and he asked where it was. But she said she would only reveal the location in a week or else he might kick her out and the information would be worthless. Our boy told Pang to keep an eye on her, especially at night, and to report anything suspicious. As she turned to leave, he asked where the ability books she had mentioned were. She claimed he must be losing his mind, saying she had never mentioned ability books. He responded that he had forgotten he had enough bullets to deal with what was in front of him. Immediately, she remembered and said she did have some abilities. She stretched out her hand and several abilities ranging from climbing to wood collection appeared. Our boy reached out and began taking everything. He even commented that she had become much nicer, even offering up abilities without being asked. He then said he would give her some fertilizer so she and Pang could take care of the food, which would likely become scarce in this second phase. He left, telling her not to worry. She would take care of the entire island. Meanwhile, she thought to herself that it was much better to stay there, where it was safe and there was food. Back at home, the system informed him that he could use 120 cloth scraps to make level 1 protective clothing. At that moment, he realized he had received the gene improvement talent, which boosted his physique, endurance, and speed, as well as the energy improvement talent, which increased the amount of power he could extract from each core. The first talent increased his recovery rate by 10 times and everything related to speed by 50. The second one reduced the amount of damage he took and increased the efficiency of everything by 20%. Now, with the extra defense from his pure energy shield, he knew close combat with zombies was no longer a problem. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, the zombies were trying to break through a window. As usual, Zheng He's team was in deep trouble, with everyone saying they wouldn't last much longer. One desperate guy said that even if the zombies didn't break in, they wouldn't be able to escape and eventually they would die of hunger. He declared that the place had now become everyone's graveyard. Zheng Yu tried to calm them down, saying they had survived so far and would continue to survive. But the guy with the red eyes asked about this so-called survival and charged at her, saying she was only saying that because she hadn't been injured. At that moment, everyone was shocked to see that he had been bitten by a zombie. He lunged towards Zheng Yu, saying that now it was her turn to be infected too. But a blade came between them. It was Hong Da who sliced the boy in half and the remains collapsed to the ground. Hong Da said that if anyone else had been injured, they should come forward and he would let them rest in peace and isolation until they became zombies. However, if you found anyone hiding their wounds, they shouldn't blame him for what he'd do next. The group was terrified and a little boy started sweating profusely without saying a word. He stepped forward and everyone was startled. He looked at them with a pitiful expression, while Hong Da seemed thrilled. He rested his sword on his shoulder, and Zheng Hao told him that this wasn't the way to handle things. The crowd started shouting, asking what Hong Da was planning to do. At the same time, Hong Da raised his sword to strike, but Zheng Hao blocked the attack with his own sword. Hong Da insisted, and he cut the little boy like he was in a Photoshop edit, turning to Zheng Hao, saying that he needed to stop being so kind. The boy's body fell to the ground, and furious, Zheng Hao asked Hong Da if he hadn't promised to let the person turn into a zombie before killing them. Zheng Yu added that the boy had been one of the most hardworking, a good person up to that moment. She began to lose her composure, pulling back her bow and saying that Hong Da was a bastard. But Hong Da reminded her that he had saved her, asking her who she thought she was pointing that bow at. Zheng Yu was so furious, she was practically turning into an emoji until Zheng Hao grabbed her bow and told her to calm down because they were surrounded by zombies and couldn't afford internal conflict. She reluctantly put the bow away and Hong Da was just smiling. Then, out of nowhere, he leaped at her, saying that anyone who shows intent to kill him deserves to die. But Zheng Hao stretched out his hand and explosions went off on Hong Da's chest. He fell, riddled with bullets, then slowly got up, looking like he was barely hanging on. He asked Zheng Hao how he had the courage to strike his childhood friend over an outsider. Hong Da wanted to know why he wasn't allowed to kill the weak, the ones who would turn into zombies, or the ones who wanted to kill him. In the middle of his speech, he collapsed, saying that this weakness would lead to everyone's death. The poor guy was closer to death than life. Hong Da admitted he feared death, but Zheng Hao had saved him. So now Zheng Hao could take back the life he saved and kill him this time. Zheng Hao just stared, then turned to his friends and told them to treat Hong Da before he died. The team carried the poor, beaten-up guy away, and Zheng Hao warned them not to mention anything about what happened. He then asked Zheng Yu how long the food would last. She said 2 days. He replied that by tomorrow, most of the zombies would have dissipated and he would go alone to search for resources. If he didn't return by nightfall, they could disband the group. 4 days passed. Our boy's crops were growing nicely, and that little girl was busy harvesting with Pang. That day's harvest alone was enough for them to survive for a week. Our boy reminded her not to think only about eating, but to plant more so they have more food in the future. She commented that the problem with those meat potatoes was that they had so much water, they could spoil quickly. She suggested using zombie venom to dry them out. Lai Fang immediately asked if she was trying to turn him and the dog into zombies. She apologized, saying that if he didn't like the idea, she wouldn't try it. The system gave a tip that the plants would become poisoned, but their appearance and taste wouldn't change. So he told her to try it and see what happens. After using the zombie venom, a faint evil smoke appeared around the plants. She said it didn't seem to change anything, but he pointed out that this was the perfect effect, an easy weapon to harm people without them knowing. When he collected the crop, even the system didn't register any hint of poison in the item's name. He realized he'd have to be careful not to eat one himself. Then he started collecting some wood, absorbing a bit of energy from the cores. He crafted some bows and arrows. He told the girl to list the bows in the market for gasoline, food, crystals, and water. She pointed out that the bows only came with 3 arrows, but our boy said that was the secret to the sale. Once they had the bow, it would be easy to sell more arrows. She smiled, saying he was really ruthless when it came to trading. At that moment, he received a trade offer from Zhao Xiu and that other girl. As soon as he accepted, he got a bunch of items, which struck him as odd. He decided to call her. When he opened the call, she seemed desperate, telling him not to contact her because she had already given up. Lai Fang insisted, telling her to say what was going on. Just then, a creature destroyed her house while she was hiding under the table. She turned to the boy, saying she was about to die, but thanked him for helping her survive this long, hoping that the things she sent him would be useful. The protagonist kept insisting, shouting that he could save her, but the call disconnected. She was terrified of the creature the size of a window, saying the place seemed to be the armory she had visited before. Lai Fang grabbed her by the shoulder, shaking her and demanding to know where it was. She finally showed him a map with the location, but warned that she had only walked around the perimeter and had no idea what was in the middle. Lai Fang immediately declared that they were going to that place. The truck sped through the city and the little girl commented that the number of zombies had decreased. Meanwhile, our boy was focused on rescuing Xiu. That's when they saw someone face to face with a horde of creatures, and the girl mentioned that someone was fighting a mature Krauser. At that moment, Zheng Hao threw 3 daggers, hitting the creature squarely. As it staggered back, he retrieved the daggers and sliced its neck. He sprinted off while our boy watched, analyzing the situation. Our boy noticed that Zheng Hao had an extremely strong physique but hadn't leveled up yet. To be fighting creatures like this, he must be crazier than him. Zheng Hao threw another dagger, finishing off another creature. Zheng Hao stood there in shock, realizing the truck could handle things much faster. Meanwhile, our boy continued speeding through the city, not stopping for a second, mowing down all the zombies. The good thing was that he was collecting tons of crystal cores, and the girl was thrilled because she was getting half of them. He was now face to face with the giant zombie. The girl warned him to be careful because they couldn't predict what would happen. But our boy wasn't stopping for anything. He drove straight through the monster. She relaxed when she saw that it worked, and he reassured her, saying it was a reinforced truck. At that moment, a giant zombie fell onto the windshield, so he swerved and threw the creature off. Another one began crawling onto the roof, so he told her to take the wheel while he handled it. Opening the door, he climbed out and told Pang to keep an eye on his back and attack any distracted creatures. He jumped onto the roof, and it was clear that his speed talent came with some incredible balance. He was up there on the cabin while the zombies were following. He activated his new shield, which would last 15 minutes. The creatures were closing in from both sides, but now he was confident, saying they had picked the wrong target. One came from behind, but he easily dodged, slicing it and gaining 36 cores. But just as he was feeling good, he took a bite on the shoulder. However, he was tough, and he punched the creature, tearing off his arm. Compared to fighting humans, these creatures were far easier, and now he was taking the initiative. He slashed another, finishing it off. The remaining zombies began to run away, and he was relieved that he had scared them off. It wasn't going to be easy otherwise. His recovery talent kicked in, and his body began to regenerate. But suddenly, another zombie appeared behind him, jumping to attack and trying to knock him off the truck. Our boy confidently told it that it should have run while it had the chance, rather than dying a miserable death. At that moment, Pang came from behind and finished it off, adding another 32 cores to the count. Meanwhile, from inside the truck, the girl screamed for him to hurry back because there was a huge horde of those giant zombies up ahead. She warned that they couldn't slow down and were about to crash head-on. The truck collided with everything in its path. Our boy opened the door and told her to get out of the driver's seat because he needed to get in. The truck seemed to be holding up, but they were teetering on the edge of a bridge. At the last second, he swerved, narrowly avoiding plunging into the abyss, but instead crashing into more zombies. The girl began praying that the truck wouldn't explode while he kept collecting 36 crystals with each hit. But then the system warned him that the truck would explode in 40 seconds. He kept mowing down the creatures, smoke billowing from the engine. The girl begged him to slow down, saying she couldn't even see anymore. But our boy just told Xiu that they were almost there. He then saw a wall of creatures up ahead, and she confirmed that this was the place. He told her to jump on the count of 3, and they both leaped out as the truck continued forward and exploded, taking out everything in its path. She was about to complain, but he told her to shut up and keep running. They had to get out of there before more zombies arrived. As soon as he took a step, a window appeared, and the system alerted him that inside was a giant lizard with abilities comparable to a rank 2 awakened. Unfortunately, it was already face to face with him. The lizard lunged to bite, and our boy shoved his friend aside, at least managing to save her. Pang tried to help but got stomped on, leaving the girl worried that they were all going to die there. The creature seemed to have eaten our boy until it took a bazooka shot right to the roof of its mouth. He came tumbling out with his shield activated. She celebrated, saying she knew he wouldn't die that easily. He turned and hit the lizard again, but the system told him he needed to finish it quickly because it had high regeneration. He drew his blade and activated his shield. This was his only chance. He lunged at the creature, but just as he got close, it whipped him with its tongue, causing him to spit blood. His sternum was broken. The system informed him that the creature's eyes were its weakest point and its vital spot was in the spine. The girl used zombie smoke to impair the lizard's vision, which began to corrode its eyes. Lei Fang seized the opportunity to jump on its back, yelling for it to die. His attack hit squarely on its spine, causing the lizard to writhe in agony. But now, our boy was stuck hanging onto the creature like a fool. He started repeatedly stabbing it with his sword, commanding it to die. The creature writhed in pain for a while before finally collapsing, dead. Our boy started laughing, relieved that they had managed to take it down. The girl ran over, asking if he was okay. He said he was fine, but their priority now was finding Zhao Xiu. However, the girl just wanted to take a picture to show off on the Apocalypse social networks. After scolding her, she said she'd start looking. Our boy collected the creature's corpse, gaining several energy items. In the next scene, he was shouting for Xiu while saying his real name, Zhang Chen. Apparently, that scoundrel had lied when he said he was Lei Feng. He was starting to fear that she might already be dead. The girl told him to check a certain corner, and when they moved the debris, they found Xiu completely beaten up. She had been infected for a long time, but the girl managed to use her talent to remove part of the venom. Zhang Chen told her to keep healing while he stood guard to ensure nothing got close. The system alerted him that the room next door was full of weapons and ammunition. He eagerly went to check it out, and boy, did he hit the jackpot. A whole tank, a bunch of ammo, several AK-47s, and bazooka rounds. But just then, they heard a strange noise. Everyone wondered what it could be. Zhang Chen told the girl to stay put while he went to investigate. Walking down the corridor, he spotted a golden chest and wondered why the system hadn't mentioned it. Strangely, there was a well behind it. At that moment, something came out of the well, and Zhang Chen immediately sensed danger approaching. He wished the thing would hurry up so he could blast it with the bazooka, but then he realized that some kind of new creature was emerging from the well. He turned to the girl and told her to open the door and start that car. She warned him that the other girl hadn't recovered yet, but just then, a giant monster appeared in front of them. Worse still, the bazooka shot didn't even damage it. The system notified him that it was a tanker giant with strength, speed, and sonic attacks. The monster slammed the ground, and Zhang Chen wondered if this could even be called a zombie anymore. He used a quick attack to distract it for a second and tried to land a blow to its neck. However, not only did his sword do nothing, but the monster turned and shot a laser. Our boy was slammed into the ground, but thankfully managed to dive into the tank. Grabbing the dog, they made a quick escape, while the monster roared, slamming its fist into the ground, causing everything to shake. At least inside the tank, they were safe. The girl kept driving, but the giant zombie was watching them, destroying the ground to make the path more difficult. Unfortunately, they fell into a pit. Zhang Chen wondered why the system hadn't warned them, thinking they might actually die this time, or maybe the system wanted them to fall. The tank landed intact on the ground, but what they found was even worse. They had fallen into a nest filled with eggs. The girl immediately asked if they should dump all the gasoline, crying as she mentioned it had cost them so many arrows and everything they had. But our boy insisted that they had to burn everything or the entire city would be destroyed. Then the real problem arrived. The giant zombie jumped down from the ceiling and was heading straight for them. Zhang Chen realized they wouldn't have enough time and said they had to run. The girl took the wheel, grumbling that she never wanted to go out with him again since every time her life was on the line. The zombie punched the ground and Zhang Chen started throwing gasoline everywhere. As the girl began to turn the tank, he dumped gasoline on the monster's face and pulled out the bazooka, saying goodbye. The shot ignited everything in flames, but the zombie kept chasing them. Finally, he yelled for the girl to speed up, and they managed to get some distance. The system congratulated them for burning 11% of the nest and rewarded them with a rank 2 chest. Our boy was shocked. If they had only burned 11%, that meant the nest was 10 times bigger. But the surprises weren't over yet. A poison-creating zombie appeared, capable of launching highly corrosive attacks. It immediately started attacking the tank's metal shell, and not even the fortified armor could withstand it. There were 3 more up ahead. Zhang Chen told her not to stop or they'd die there. He took the wheel, saying the car wouldn't last much longer. They needed to get out of this crazy place. Sometime later, they had escaped the base. The two were hugging each other, crying with relief, saying they never wanted to return there. But they didn't have much time to rest, as an army of zombies was already approaching, led by giants. They had to wipe away their tears and keep fleeing. Worse still, they had to change direction, so they wouldn't lead all the zombies to the city. Some creatures started pounding on the roof, so once again, Zhang Chen told her to drive while he dealt with them. He killed another zombie next to them, but in the back seat, Yu began screaming in pain. The girl explained that the poison had been fully cleaned out and now she was getting reinfected. Zhang Chen told her to keep healing while he tried to handle everything else. He started driving with his foot while hanging out in the car, wielding an AK. It was explosions and bazooka shots everywhere, and he was collecting a lot of crystal cores. He was up to 756 cores, needing 1,200 to evolve. After another bazooka shot and more slashes, everything was burning. He kept collecting crystals and was up to 1,032. But the creature with the helmet wasn't affected by any of it. Zhang Chen turned to her and said they were heading toward a bridge. The creature kept chasing them, and Zhang Chen said it was time for them to stop following him. He fired a bazooka, collapsing the bridge onto the monster. He celebrated, thinking the thing must have died. But of course it hadn't, though now it was slowed down by the water from a nearby dam flooding its chest. At least that gave them a bit of a break, and they finally made it back to Changyang City. Zheng Hao's group was heading back to their base as night fell. He asked what Hongda had been up to, and someone told him that Hongda was delivering all the resources and saying he would now follow Zheng Hao's orders. Zheng Hao told them to leave Hongda alone. He seemed to be behaving as part of the group again. Then something passed by them. Everyone was shocked to see someone had a tank. The scene shifted to our boy's house. It had been tough, but he finally got the woman in bed, right? His friends were all exhausted too. Pang was licking Xiaoxi's face and our boy thanked her, saying she had done a good job. She widened her eyes, grabbed his leg, and said she was glad he finally called her by name. He told her that from now on they were family and to send him a message when Yu woke up. That day it was raining, so he decided to relax a bit and check out the most important thing, the rank 2 chest he had received for destroying part of the nest. Inside, he found a bunch of items, including advancement potions, talent crystals, pet upgrades, food, resources, and more. He broke one of the crystals, upgrading both of his talents. He even had a talent tree and decided to focus on increasing his defense since for now he could still rely on his sword. He gained a new ability that reduced damage by 30% for a short period. He spent everything to evolve both talents, becoming surrounded by energy. He thought it was strange. His body felt both cold and hot at the same time. Maybe this was the concentrated attack power he gained. With that, they went to sleep and the day arrived. Our boy woke up smelling something delicious. He immediately wanted to know where the smell was coming from. It seemed the fight from the day before had paid off. Our boy had earned himself some good food. She thanked him, saying that since he saved her, her life now belonged to him. Our boy replied that if it weren't for her medicine earlier, he would have died too. Shiki, who was nearby, was fuming and told them to stop chatting and eat because she was hungry. Our boy was impressed at how well she had prepared the meat potatoes. She said she used to cook a lot a long time ago and would happily cook for him every day if he wanted. At that moment, Xiao Xia mentioned that a giant zombie was approaching. He turned in surprise and she sneaked a piece of potato, but he wasn't fooled. He drew his sword, cutting her fork and telling her to stop stealing other people's food. But she shot back, saying that after what happened yesterday, she would eat whatever she wanted, regardless of what he said. The two started arguing and Zhao Xia told them to cut it out. That's when Pang jumped in, catching the food in midair and carried it away. Sometime later, they were fertilizing another batch of potatoes. They had run out of everything they collected before, so it was time to gather more. Zhao Xia was excited, saying she hoped to live this peaceful life forever. The girl started showing off, saying she had enough combat power to protect everyone there. She then turned and said she had forgotten to mention something. She had gained a bunch of skills from the base they'd raided. Some were piloting skills, others involved shooting, and among them was a diary from someone who survived another apocalypse. Two other interesting skills were knowledge of metals and basic mechanics. She learned all the abilities and decided to read the diary. It described how, on August 12, 2012, a virus spread through the city, turning everyone into zombies. In less than 24 hours, there wasn't a living soul visible on the streets. By September 12, however, humanity's worst nightmare had become mutant plants and insects. Most of these creatures revived after being killed, and they also came from underground. By October 12, people in the bunker began taking their own lives, tired of living underground. In December, insects attacked the base, and they didn't have time to get into their mechs. When the elders heard this, they wondered if there were also armed robots in that place. The scene shifted to Xiao Xia driving the tank through the city, feeling confident now that our boy could repair it. She was calm about going out to kill zombies. Pang had evolved, and dealing with the smaller zombies was now extremely easy for him. They knew they needed to keep getting stronger, so standing still wasn't an option. In classic superhero style, Zhang Chen leaped into battle, acting like he was in a Marvel movie, stomping the ground and breaking everything around him. Even a Caillou from the third floor was firing bazookas. These low-level creatures were now basically free experience, and they continued clearing out the entire city. Man Zhang Chen hit them with a laser blast, cleaning everything out, but it hurt his hands so much that he realized he should save it for the right moment. He kept absorbing everything around him and collected over 700 crystals. Finally, he had enough to advance another level, becoming a rank 2 awakened. To reach rank 3, he now needed 6,000 energy. His fire and ice abilities also evolved. He gained 4 talent points and decided to spend them all. He jumped, and in the next second, he appeared beside Xiao Xia. She was impressed, saying it seemed like he was teleporting. Our boy asked her how many points she needed to level up, and she said she still hadn't advanced. He questioned how that was possible, but she told him not to worry since they were surviving just fine. However, Zhang Chen insisted they needed to get stronger before a disaster hit the city. He activated his eye to scan for more zombies. Caillou then announced she had reached the level of exceptionally strong and wouldn't be a burden anymore. Zhang Chen praised her, saying that was impressive, and now was time for them to clear the entire city. In a nearby room, it was full of creepers when suddenly the wall exploded. The monsters were shocked as fireworks burst beneath them. Of course, it was Zhang Chen. The creepers started fleeing, but Xiao Xia gave the order to fire all their bullets and not let any of them escape. Throughout the city, people began whispering that someone was laughing maniacally while killing all the zombies. There were so many explosions that people were afraid to go out and see who it was. Some thought it was good, while others knew that resources would become even more scarce now. One person said that no one should go to the commercial area of the city, as it belonged to the gym's camp. But another replied that their camp was more like a camp for beggars. Since everyone who joined that group is only starving, the one with the smirk, Hongda's avatar, says that anyone curious is welcome to visit them. Then Jing Hao appears, apologizing for his friend, explaining that they have no intention of monopolizing the city's resources. Back at the gym, Hongda is angry as usual, asking why they were just standing around when they could be out collecting resources now that most of the zombies had been killed. Zheng Hao responds that the reduction in zombies is only temporary and soon more will appear in the city, so it's not worth risking everyone. but Hongda argues that the biggest risk they're facing is running out of resources and dying of hunger. Zheng Hao asks again why he's not following the group's orders, but Hongda simply raises his hands and says that tomorrow he will occupy the commercial area and gather as many resources as possible. This caused a division within Zheng Hao's group, and he realized that now, without zombies, the bigger problem would be dealing with humans. Back at their comfortable home, the banquet is served, with some very delicious things arriving at the table. Xiao Xe was impressed by how many different dishes Kai Yu could make using just those potatoes. Once again, Xiao Xe wanted to monopolize the food, and our boy was too lazy to argue. Xiao Xe explained that she had been starving since her time in the other world she lived in, where the only thing to eat was tree roots. Our boy was surprised and asked if she was that poor before coming to the apocalypse. She deflected, saying yes, while quickly changing the subject, mentioning that she and Yu had managed to sell a lot of bows and arrows. She didn't want to reveal to Zhang Chen that she was actually born in this world. Then Zhang Chen announced that tomorrow they would return to the bunker, making Yu nervous. He explained that the city's zombies were no longer enough for him to level up. Moreover, before the mutant plants and insects started to appear, they needed to arm themselves with the mechs. Later, Zhang Chen gave Pang some food, which was supposedly an evolution item, though it had a strange shape. Our boy told Pang to trust him and eat it without thinking. Pang swallowed it, and black smoke started emanating, with Zhang Chen noting that the effect was quick. Surprisingly, it even corroded part of Yu's arm. Zhang Chen told Xiao Xai to heal her while realizing that this strange food was indeed effective. Out of the smoke, something began to emerge. Our boy was keeping an eye on it. A giant paw slammed onto the ground, and both girls were startled at the sight. Pang had evolved, now with a dark aura coming from his eyes. To be honest, he didn't look much different, but everyone was impressed. The system showed that he was now a rank 1 adolescent, and with his wild call, he could summon 2 more wolf cubs to assist him in combat. Feeling confident, Zhang Chen declared that it was time to go hunting, leaving Pang in charge of the base. He told Pang that this island was now his, and he should obey everything Yu said. Zhang Chen then said it was time to head to the bunker. The scene shifts to the commercial area, where Han Dao was not only killing zombies but also other survivors, excited because it was a much easier way to collect resources. The victims called him a liar, since Zheng Hao had promised that anyone who came there would receive help. Hongda cynically replied that they shouldn't blame him because these were the orders of their leader, Zheng Hao. One of the survivors pointed out that this would turn them into public enemies, and everyone would hunt them down. Hongda responded that if they handed over their rings, he wouldn't kill anyone, asking what they thought of that offer. The survivor hesitated, asking if it was really true. Hongda smirked and said they could trust him, but warned them not to reveal that he was just following Zheng Hao's orders. The survivors handed over their rings and ran away in desperation. Hongda, increasingly deranged, declared that he would finally make Zheng Hao as notorious as he always wanted to be. At that moment, 2 people from a rooftop aimed a sniper rifle, which was oddly floating in the air since the artist hadn't bothered to draw it in their hands. They informed Hongda that the 3rd wave had arrived, and it was time to teach him a lesson. They aimed at the building and fired a shot, hitting Hongda squarely and sending him flying. The survivors ran to Zheng Hao, reporting that the captain had been captured. Zheng Hao told them to calm down and explain what happened. The person lied, saying they had followed his instructions, searching for resources in the commercial area, but they encountered some strange people they had never seen before. Zhen Yu asked where the rest of the group was and how he had managed to escape. The boy handed over a list of resources, saying this was the price the bandits demanded, warning that if they didn't pay, the entire base would be attacked. Zhen Yu quickly realized that the demand amounted to half of everything they had in the base. Zheng Hao told everyone to stay calm, reasoning that these bandits wouldn't dare attack a base in the middle of a city full of powerful players. However, he admitted that his concern was that even if they handed over the supplies, they might still be killed. Zhen Yu asked if he was really willing to give up half of what they had. Zheng Hao, feeling conflicted, said he knew of a way to save Hongda and that he had to help his friend. The scene shifts to a cave. Xiao Xe was walking through the creature's core area, asking where the mecha was. Just then, one of those poisonous creatures appeared in front of her. Startled, she nervously started talking to the monster, asking if a zombie knew where the armed robot was. The creature just stared at her for a moment, then shook its head, indicating no. To test if the creatures would obey her, she commanded it to leave, and immediately, it ran off. She went ahead and asked if it had seen a big piece of metal that the zombies were afraid of. The zombie nodded and pointed downwards. The scene then switched to Zhang Chen trading punches with that giant zombie with a helmet. He was using all of his defense skills to buy time for Xiao Xai to find the mecha, but she had to be quick because he couldn't keep fighting the creature for much longer. Xiao Xai finally found her way down, where, hidden deep below, she discovered 4 mechas. However, upon closer inspection, she realized they were more like mecha scraps. None of them were connected or operational, and everything was broken. Only one seemed somewhat intact, but even that one wasn't in great shape. She called Zhang Chen, telling him about the broken mechas and the 5 giants patrolling the area. Zhang Chen noticed the one that seemed relatively intact and said he could fix it, so he was on his way. She thought it was too risky, but he replied that sometimes you had to take risks to get rewards, so he was going for it. The giants looked calm while Xiao Xi hid, but suddenly, explosions started happening below. The zombies rushed down, crazed, throwing themselves into the fire to see what was happening. Zhang Chen used the chaos to reach her, telling her to use the smoke as cover, while he tried to fix at least one mecha. He had the materials, but the problem was that it would take him 30 minutes to repair even one of them. Our boy handed over another 100 grenades and told her to keep throwing them as he got closer. Xiao Xi was terrified and didn't want to die, but Zhang Chen reassured her that he trusted her talent. Meanwhile, some zombies were returning. She grabbed the bazooka, saying she'd buy time, but he had better save her when it was ready. Zhang Chen noticed that it was getting more expensive to continue the repairs. In the meantime, Xiao Xi was shouting at the zombies, calling them idiots, while throwing grenades left and right. Amidst the smoke, the creatures struggled to find her as she kept tossing grenades and bazookas at everyone. Time passed, and unfortunately, she had used up all the ammunition she had received. She was exhausted, but she knew this was a critical moment and needed to buy just a bit more time. After a while, the zombies were all beaten down, and Xiao Xi had no more ways to help. Bravely, she declared that she would keep stalling even if it meant becoming a zombie herself. But just then, something emerged from the smoke. It was Zhang Chen in the mecha, although it still looked a bit beat up. The problem was that a lot of zombies were blocking his path. Luckily, the mecha was extremely fast and he easily dodged around them. He told Xiao Xi that for now it could only fly because it still needed a lot of materials, and he ordered her to jump in and drive it while he distracted the creatures. She jumped into the mecha and went straight for the monsters, telling Zhang Chen not to worry as she would get the mecha to safety. Zhang Chen kept dodging attacks, realizing how fast the zombies were, and at this point, he even had electric powers like static shock, while Xiao Xi accelerated to get out of the pit. Zhang Chen celebrated, saying that those fools were looking in the wrong direction, and then he hit them in the face, telling them that he was their target. Meanwhile, Zhen Yu was causing a commotion, throwing rocks at people's homes, hoping someone would come out to help them. That's when she encountered Pang by a river. Before she could figure out what was going on, the monster lunged at her. Luckily, she dodged in time but wondered why there was a monster protecting this area. A second later, Pang was right behind her, and she didn't know how to escape. She thought about running to Zhang Chen to see if he could handle the situation, but Pang was already closing in. The scene shifted to Honda, tied up and surrounded by 10 men from another city. A blonde guy announced that their time for resources was up, so it was time to finish him. They poured gasoline all over him, and Honda thought to himself that in the end he really was just being used by Zhang Hao's group. The guy in sunglasses apologized, saying it was really going to hurt, but suddenly, Honda was startled by something. Everyone heard footsteps approaching. It was Zhang Hao, walking in like a Chad, all alone. The blonde guy asked where the guards were, and Zhang Hao responded that no one was answering. Calmly, Zhang Hao took off his ring, saying that it contained the resources they wanted and asking them to leave his people alone. But the guys all pointed their weapons at Zhang Hao, saying there was no negotiating with someone who just showed up out of nowhere. Zhang Hao had expected this to happen, and the blonde leader said they weren't just going to take their resources, they were going to take their lives too. Zhang Hao asked if the blonde guy really wanted to blow up the whole place, and the blonde guy scoffed, asking how he planned to do that while being there alone. Zhang Hao opened his shirt to reveal a few explosives strapped to his chest. The blonde guy raised his hands and told his men to let the boy go. He was fuming as they retreated, instructing his men to follow Zhang Hao and blow him up along the way. However, as soon as Zhang Hao made his exit, he ran off at full speed. Honda, injured and struggling to keep up, begged him to slow down because his wounds were reopening. That's when Zhang Hao revealed that all the bombs on his body were fake. Honda was furious, while Zhang Hao wondered why Zheng Yu hadn't been able to lure the creature yet. Since Plan A hadn't worked, it was time for Plan B. Suddenly, a guy dropped in front of them. Clearly, he had a gun but no brains because it would have been smarter to use it from a distance. Honda began cursing at Zhang Hao, saying that if he had brought everyone, they wouldn't be about to die. But Zhang Hao argued that he couldn't risk his comrades' lives. Honda shot back, accusing Zhang Hao of trying to be a hero instead of truly wanting to save him. As they bickered, the bald guy yelled at them to stop arguing and just lay the bombs on the ground so everyone could leave in peace. But right then, a wolf appeared behind them. The guy turned startled, wondering what kind of monster it was, assuming this was part of Zhang Hao's plan. Of course, it was Pang, now evolved. The madman started laughing, saying this whole plan was ridiculous, when suddenly, Zheng Yu yelled from a nearby window, telling him to run. Seeing how scared she was, Zhang Hao knew something was wrong. In an instant, he tossed a smoke grenade. The bald guy turned and shouted not to let them escape, but Pang sent a shadow attack, catching them off guard. The shadow transformed into a dog and delivered a vicious bite. Meanwhile, back at the base, the blonde leader was growing impatient, wondering why it had been an hour, and there was no news that the group had been eliminated. What he didn't know was that everyone at the base was running around in panic, trying to figure out what kind of monster they were dealing with. The blonde guy guessed it was a war pet, and ordered everyone to start shooting. They emptied their magazines, but nothing seemed to affect Pang, who leaped into the middle of the group, tossing them aside effortlessly. Before they could react, Pang was clawing at their chests. The blonde leader tried to flee, realizing the creature was too strong, but Pang let out a war cry, summoning his 2 clones. With that, the entire base was wiped out. Sometime later, back in the city, Hongda thanked Zheng Hao for saving him and said he could make his way back on his own. Zheng Hao agreed, saying that was probably for the best for the group. Once again, Hongda walked away angry, complaining that no one understood him. Meanwhile, Zhenyu was furious, shouting that Hongda was a heartless bastard who didn't deserve to be saved. Hongda muttered to himself that he would return, become an awakened, and replace that damn Zheng Hao. Then the scene shifted to several trucks and tanks moving through the city, packed with armed men. The leader, who seemed calm, ordered them to kill everyone in the city as revenge for his younger brother. They were to place treasure chests in highly visible spots to attract various groups and then kill them all. Behind a bush, Hongdae was hiding. This was a giant mercenary group, and they were planning to wipe out the entire city of Shenyang. However, when they looked up, they saw something in the sky. Everyone was shocked to see a kind of mecha. Nobody could understand how something so rare could be in this broken-down city. Inside the mecha was Xiaoji, wondering why there were so many outsiders in Shenyang, as they seemed to have bad intentions. It was time to give them a little scare. She descended to the ground, and immediately everyone started running in a panic. The mercenaries scrambled back into their trucks and tanks and sped away. With that, Xiaoji flew off in the mecha. Hongda watched everything unfold, realizing that with the mecha, it was impossible to lose. Interestingly, the treasure chests that the mercenaries had placed in the city were still there, left behind in their hasty retreat. When Honda opened one, he found some weapons and a physical enhancement potion. Finally, he could become awakened and get some likes on this video. That helps Mamoru make more juicy content for his viewers. Activate the cheeky little bell, and I'm out.